What is up, YouTube? My name is Eben, and if you like what you see today, go ahead and give the like button a tap. It sure would help me out. And today we are going to be looking at Palkia EX. This guy is pretty amazing. He hasn't really gotten as much attention as I think he deserves, but today we're going to change that. He's got 180 HP, which is pretty buff, and for 2 water energies, he deals 40 damage and searches your deck for 2 water energy cards and attaches them to one of your benched Pokemon, which is pretty awesome. That's a 2 energy power-up. That's as much as you get from Mega Manectric, but with considerably less effort and setup. Of course, he also does have this nice 4 water energy attack, Pearl Hurricane, which, yeah, it's 4 water, so no double colorless energy power-ups, but that's fine because we're going to be boosting things with Palkia EX in this deck anyway. We don't even run double colorless energy in this deck. We don't even need it. So it's basically just 4 energies. Does 120 damage and does 30 to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon, which can be very useful for helping set up KOs or picking off small things. But primarily here, what we're going to be using Palkia for is getting him out as quickly as possible and firing off an Aqua Turbo. In fact, we can fire off if we go second, or on our second turn if we happen to go first, whichever. We can actually fire off an Aqua Turbo in a single turn. We have a few things we can do to kind of arrange this trick, but thanks to Max Elixir and the potential for free retreats, thanks to Palkia EX, we can indeed fire off a turn 1 Aqua Turbo, which gives us a huge energy advantage. But even if we do have to wait a turn and set up like a normal person, it's still pretty amazing. Our main gun in this deck that we're going to be trying to power up with Palkia EX is the little-known promo Aurora's EX, and we are running 2 of these. Just like Palkia EX, this thing has 180 HP, making it really buff. It has an interesting ability that says that any one of your Pokemon that has a water energy attached can't be paralyzed, which, not super relevant, but hey, that's cool, and that's better than nothing, right? And on the off chance you might be paralyzed, it would be nice to not get paralyzed, right? But the main thing we're after here is its 4 energy attack. That is 160 base damage. 160. I mean, people will put a lot of effort into 150 or even 140. This is 160, which is important because with a muscle band, that's 180 for a knockout on, practically speaking, most EXs that aren't either carrying a Fighting Fury belt or happen to be named Wailord or a Mega or something weird like that. But conventionally speaking, that's a KO on most EXs you're ever going to meet. Now, you can't attack on your next turn, but with Palkia EX to give you that free retreat thanks to water energy, it doesn't matter. In fact, once we got these guys powered up a la Palkia, we can actually just free retreat from one to the other each turn and just keep hammering with our Crystal Breath attacks for 180 and 180, which is a definite high-pressure situation for an opponent. Now, of course, that's not always how we're going to set it up, but there are lots of other things we can gladly attack alternatingly with Auroras if we want to. Now, I've already mentioned it. We do run 2 Palkia EX. Aqua Tube, it's like the old Darkrai's ability. Anybody who's got a water energy, they get a free retreat. And we do have this interesting mineral pump attack here, but Palkia we're running 2 just to make sure that it doesn't get sniped and shut us down. It's just here to give everybody free retreats. Now, we do have one backup attacker that's kind of interesting, QRM EX. His Ice Caliber can be a great way to put on pressure and prevent our opponent from being able to make sacrifice plays that involve giving us a lot of damage, because Ice Caliber, while it does require an energy discard, also prevents them from attacking on the next turn. And with 130 damage, that's a lot of pressure. That basically KOs, well, pretty much anything. But he also has this nifty Glaciate attack, which, if you think about it, Fighting Fury Belt on this guy, 220 HP, puts him pretty much out of range of things like Night March, but 2 Glaciates will pretty much wipe their board clean, with the exception of Shaman EXs. But your ability to sweep through and take maybe 2 prizes off of 2 Glaciates is pretty amazing, and it's a fair trade-off with 2 potential Night Marches. But the fact that you're taking out 2 Night Marchers on their bench all in the same turn is pretty punishing, and Joltik doesn't dare hit the bench while you're threatening Glaciates either. So definitely a nice backup attacker in this deck, very relevant, and of course Glaciate can hit other things too. We also run 1 Articuno. We're using this kind of like a toolbox setup, of course. Yeah, Chilling Side can be kind of interesting and useful, but we're mainly here for the Tri-Edge attack. This can pick off things that have been hit with bigger attacks from other Pokemon, and it's great against things like Night March, where you're pretty much guaranteed the KO, and those extra prizes are very useful. And in pretty much all matches, this plus Lysander can mean some serious punishment for an opponent. It can easily mean 2 to 3 prizes sitting in your back pocket anytime Articuno is powered up. We do also have one Regice for EX heavy decks just to give them a lot of trouble. This guy's hitting for 70 and 90 for 2-hit KOs in most scenarios with a muscle band. And we can always Ice Beam if worse comes to worse. But he's a great way to deal with EX heavy decks, like I say. And since we're running water and we're relying on dive balls, we are actually getting to run Octillery. And we have lots of ways to empty our hands conventionally. So we don't have any problem with pumping him up generally, unless we're already in such a comfortable situation we really don't need to worry ourselves about it. So we are running double Octilleries here. We could even attack with him in theory. And I'm preferring the Ion Pool Remoraid here just because I kind of like it better anyway. But even if that weren't the case, we pretty much can rely on those free retreats from Manafi most of the time. So if we'd have an energy on the other Remoraid to switch out, we'd be able to switch this guy for free anyway. And this way we can snipe stadiums. So it's kind of feels like the pick to me. But anyway, we're running as far as supporters go. We're running 3 Sycamores because we don't want to burn our energies out of our hand if we can avoid it. What we're looking to do here is put them back in our deck, actually, rather with things like N. And we're still bringing the Sycamores, obviously, but N is kind of our preferred supporter, at least until our Palkia has fired off a couple of its attacks to get those energies out of our deck for the most part. So 3N, and it's always, of course, powerful early, mid, and late game. Pretty much the only time it's not good is if you have like 1 prize left and your opponent still hasn't taken any. But pretty much any other time it's got practical use, so it's just a powerful card. We're running 1 Lysander for all the obvious reasons, and especially with things like Articuno, it can be very powerful. We've got Hex Maniac because we do rely on our EXs pretty heavily, so this can be a way to punch through things like, say, Safeguard on the new card bank, for example, or anybody else who's going to be trying to block us via abilities. And we don't run AZ because we don't want to burn our energies, but what we do have the chance to run here is the rarely seen Cassius. This card is quite underrated as well, but what it does is it picks up your Pokemon, but it also picks up every card attached to it. However, it puts it into your deck, which normally would be, well, obviously kind of a detriment, not super huge since Pokemon has so much draw power, but enough of a detriment that AZ is pretty much the better choice. However, in a deck where we want to get energies out of our deck with Max Elixir and Palkia, this guy is a perfect fit. And he's a swell, just an amazing way to deny prizes from your opponent while not necessarily giving up things like valuable tool cards and whatnot either. So an excellent supporter, definitely. And we still run 1 Zerasic. Of course, we can pick off things like Headringer or DCEs from our opponent, but one very nice thing about Zerasic is the ability to pick off fighting Fury Belts after we've done 180 with Aurora's EX, which needless to say can be very powerful for picking up knockouts our opponents might not have thought us capable of taking. Now, as far as items go, we're running 4 Versus Seekers. The items in this deck are very straightforward and play out pretty quickly. We're running 4 Dive Balls, which we can fire pretty much with impunity in this deck. Get the Pokemon, lay them out on the bench, just keep playing out, keep playing out. We're also running 4 Max Elixirs. Obviously, you want to fire as many of these on your early turn or 2 as possible. But in the late game, after we've used something like Cassius or, say, Energy Recycler, this can be a great card again, as you'll definitely have increased your odds of hitting water energies again. And this helps us accelerate as our Pokemon have some fairly expensive looking attacks. We're running 3 Muscle Bands because certain Pokemon in the deck, obviously, like Aurora's EX, definitely appreciate the boost from Muscle Band. However, Pokemon like Palkia, for example, really benefit from fighting Fury Belt, and some can kind of use either one, so we're running 3 of each. The HP boost can be very difficult for some opponents to deal with, especially decks like Night March, so the fighting Fury Belt is kind of a must. But once again, the Muscle Band is pretty much just as much of a must because of Aurora's. We are running 3 Rough Seas as well, because the ability to retreat things out with Manafi EX and then slowly heal it over time with Rough Seas is amazing. Now, you might want to be a little judicious about playing this in matchups like Seismitoad, but honestly, once you get one of your heavy hitters up, the 30 damage isn't going to be enough to matter as far as your opponent healing, but that perpetual healing on your own Pokemon will always be a benefit. It really helps out against things like, say, Alakazam EX, Mega Alakazam. If that becomes a thing in the near future, bats and whatnot, this can be very detrimental to those decks, so it's a great stadium to run. We do run 1 Energy Recycler, just in case a few too many of our basic energies hit the pile. We can send them right back into the deck where Palkia wants to get them, maybe for a mid-game power-up of something that can function as a late-game sweeper. And finally, we are running 2 Trainer's Mail. I just like that it's a card we can pitch out of our hand quickly, which makes Octillery happy, and it can give us a little more early game consistency. So we are running 2 Trainer's Mail. And last but certainly not least, we are running, as you can see here, 12 Water Energies, all basic. That's all we need. We could use Splash Energy, but honestly, I prefer the basics, and Special Energies are kind of subject to Zerosic and Enhanced Hammer removal. So if you don't have a really justifiable reason, in many ways you're kind of better off using the basics, and especially because of our reliance on Palkia here, we're going to go all basic all the way. And that is the deck. I strongly suggest you give it a try. It is really fun. Palkia EX is a nice power-up card in an environment where you don't necessarily have a lot of really efficient, easy to get out kind of energy accelerators necessarily. Not like there used to be. So it's kind of it kind of reminds me of Victini EX just a little bit, but it's a lot bulkier to make up for the 2 energy costs. So definitely worth a try. And until next time, like, comment, subscribe, check me out on Twitter. Link is below, and I will see you next time.